This conference will now be recorded.
As always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So we're starting to see that summertime lull coming into the afternoon. There's just a absolutely phenomenal morning. I came with big plans of having a real great morning coming back from my week off, and by far it gave us all the opportunities to do so. But the problem is, as we start getting into these afternoons, things are going to be very slow. So we're really going to start having to be very, very picky. All right, so this is technically, this is just what I was looking at before, but technically a sideless stock, KODK. So we can see, beautiful push coming up from that 7 level and, starting to get some real big volume that's coming in. Now, my biggest problem is you could just see me going through it, but I don't see much that came in at that 750 level to really get us over there. I mean, the 720, definitely huge buying that shows us we should be making more than 30 cents on that trade. But I really would have liked to see something at 750, and we just really didn't get it. 62,000 shares, that really doesn't help us for the short-term, side of things. But this position underneath 750, once again, really shows us that we have the ability to go up. So we're making that pullback from the buying that we've had. Like I said, really wish I had those controlling prints, but we don't. But we do have a pretty decent position underneath, so that definitely shows us that we have more room to be able to go. I'm just going to need to see this come out of this valley and valley out of this dip and really be able to get some type of real nice buying and volume to be able to push us back up. So overall, it does have the buying to be able to go up. I just don't see it happening yet. We need some shorter term prints, a little bit of building coming in here, and then obviously a trigger that's going to be somewhere around that 325,000 share range. SHLL, so another one that's in pretty smooth stock, up until it just went into this consolidation right here. And the one thing at that 39, it was weak. I did not like. I love the volume that I saw coming into it, but it was just the prints themselves, just not really what I would have expected. But it also shows within the print personality, it is very hard. The orders are very thin for them to be able to get any type of bigger shares coming into it. So even though it didn't show a lot, it still has a lot of opportunity to be able to get out. But just remember, if this thing's going to run past this 39 level, the trigger that we're going to see is going to break out of this little consolidation here from 38.50. So not the best setup. I mean, the trading volume definitely is decreasing right now, but that's also a good indication of coming into higher volume times for us to be able to get a nice bar coming out of that valley. But overall, like I said, just at 39, just a little bit too weak for me. So the percentages definitely go down, and I need to see some type of building in this consolidation, because at this moment you can see there's just not really much there, and it's just it's summer trading. First of all, this is probably the last 2 weeks have been the only 2 weeks of actual summer trading. So just keep that in mind as we're going into things. Make sure those triggers really give you that extra confirmation, because you don't want to get caught up, especially with the morning that we had. And then we also have GRWG. So I've been watching this almost all day. And it never really gave us a lot of selling towards that downside. And if you remember, we do have a lot of buying that came in underneath that 15 level. So 15, we know there's going to be games being played. It's just a huge psychological level, but we do have the buying that's there. So if we can get some type of trading volume to basically be able to sustain itself, because if you look here, technically this is a dip, but it's so damn close to a valley because the trading just really stopped. But as we were pushing back up, there's some decent buying there. And then from this pre-market, it happened earlier at that 15. That tells us that the time frame's good. That was going to be longer. But overall, I do like what I see here. The only thing I'm not a big fan of, you don't typically see waning volume as the stock is pushing up. That's just not a typical volume pattern we have here. So, overall, the trading is a little bit, best word I could use is kind of wonky for it. But overall, from the pre-market prints, we definitely have the ability to break that 15. It's got the buying there. It's just really going to need some type of consistent trading to happen. And as we can see, just kind of looking across the board, things are just very, very slow right now. Not a huge amount of trading. Thoughts on the stories from this morning? Which stories? Specific. All right, so BRQS, I'm going to tell you right now. So what they showed us as we were coming up in BRQS is that they were building. So we came and we never broke past where the original consolidation started happening. You can see this move came back. So I still like it. It still has possibilities, but we're going to need to see some real trading to come into this to be able to break up above. Remember, there's huge buying that's sitting there at 2 and also had great buying above that 2 level. So something that I'm still going to be looking at. If I was trading, would I have just taken this trigger? I absolutely would have, but it comes down to the follow through and being able to break this orb. If we can break this orb on some type of volume, it's 100% still in play. So IBIO, I was not watching as closely as I should have been during this time period. So I really kind of saw, excuse me, right before 11. That's pretty much the last thing that I saw, and we ended up getting that push, as we came in. But overall, again, I just saw too much building. So this push, I just don't really see the possibilities of it coming back up today. Now, don't get me wrong. This is, 227, beautiful buying, and we could definitely see the refreshing that's happening right now. See, every time it's hitting 227, see how the orders are being added back to this. So this definitely shows up. I'm just not a huge fan of it right now, just because of the way that we see things going on. So even though there's 400,000 shares being traded, if you look, that's nothing compared to what it really was going with when the actual movement was there. So I'm going to have to see something really big in here for me to get back into it coming into the afternoon. And then CGIX was pretty much almost textbook. The only thing is that I, in no way whatsoever, the position that we saw coming in underneath that 9 and 10 from the pre-market, do I think they've made their money. I just did not see enough. And the amount of buying that we've had coming up there, the fact that it's holding, it still has possibilities, but this is another one. A big thing is coming into this afternoon. In order for me to even think about trading this, I need to see something huge change, because even though it's got 72,000 shares being traded per minute, that's just not enough. It just, we got to see something similar to this. But really what I would like to do, I would like to see is like what we saw this morning when that trigger came up and broke past this print line right here. I want to see something that breaks us out of here. Now, it still puts us in a lot of, I guess the best way to say still a lot of defensive mode, because look at what it has to break. I mean, this is just a ton of nonsense. So that's when the volume comes in. We need to see a huge amount come in, and then also once again that trigger breaking past that print line. That's what it comes down to. The buying at 10 during the market hours was serious. It was huge, and that's what tells us it's buying. It still has the opportunity to go up. It's just the setup itself is not a great spot at all, because there's just so much for it to have to break. This is one of those consolidations. If you look, if we come back over here at 850, you can see how strong 850 actually is. So we know that, but then look at every other spot. There's just a lot that's going to have to go. So the volume's going to really have to start getting towards that million share mark. And stay consistent, just based like what we saw this morning. So I don't need a million shares, but somewhere in that 650 to 700 range. And once again, staying consistent first to really believe. Now, I love what I just saw right here. See how that trigger, so the first bar that came in, we got that, but then that trigger that just came back in and broke us up above. I like that a lot, but once again, it's just, I have to look at it defensively and in a quick type of trade, because there's just so much for it to be able to get into there. So, overall, if we continue to see that buying, I have no doubts in my mind that we have the buying to be able to break over that 10 and break over those highs, because you could see this double top. The sellers came in twice, and it wasn't really the sellers that came in that brought it back down. It was the buying, the building level that brought it back down. So I like what I see. And, like I said, I would have just taken this trade immediately after it broke that print line. If obviously I was trading. Now we have our ask prints at 8, which, bring our time frame down, but it's really starting to show us what their game plan is. I mean, once again, it is so far away from where it really needs to be that triggers down here are very, very high percentage. But that volume, that's it. That's all we got to see. And then those 8 prints, obviously, they kind of, they delayed our time frame that we're going to be looking for. No doubt, no doubt. If this stock is going to break and it's really going to go, there's going to be plenty of entries coming in, because it needs so much. The problem is that we need to stop seeing that longer term buying, that building buying, and we need to see more of that short term buying coming in. And if you look on the actual move itself, this 8, once again, based off print personality, this is building. So it's showing us, but at the same time, if we look at the reaction that happened afterwards, there's nothing there. So it just hasn't really shown us that it has the chance to really be able to come up. And then remember, 850, very, very strong, big, strong resistance. So there's a lot of problems there. So if I were to take this trade, I mean, if I were to just take this trade right this second, or if I were to take this trade this afternoon, I can't use full shares yet, unless it really starts to go, just because of, of what we've been seeing there. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? Anything else out there? All right, great. So let's get ready for our afternoon. I will talk to everyone in the chat, and happy trading.